You think self-awareness is supposed to make your life better. And it does, until it doesn't. At some point, all that self-reflection stops feeling like growth and starts feeling like you re-trapped inside your own head with no way out. And the worst part? Nobody talks about this. Everyone's out here saying know yourself, understand your triggers, do the inner work, but nobody is warning you about what happens when you take that too far. So that's what we are doing today. We are going into the dark side of self-awareness, specifically, how it burns you out. Let's start with what self-awareness actually is, because I think most people get this wrong. Self-awareness isn't just knowing you have anxiety or that you're an introvert. It goes deeper. It's the ability to observe your own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, almost like you're watching yourself from the outside. And when used well, it's one of the most powerful tools you can have. But here's where it gets complicated. That watching yourself from the outside thing? Some people get stuck there. They don't just observe. They analyze. And then they analyze the analysis. Why did I say that? What did I mean? What does that say about me? Am I growing or regressing? Why do I always do this? Suddenly, living your life becomes a full-time job you never signed up for. That's the trap. Psychologists actually call this rumination. It's when your brain keeps chewing on the same thoughts over and over, like a song stuck in your head, except the song is everything you've ever done wrong. And studies show that people who ruminate more at a much higher risk of depression and anxiety. Not less. More. So the very thing you're doing to improve your mental health can actually be making it worse. Now let's talk about the burnout side of this, because that's where it gets real. Burnout from overthinking doesn't look like regular burnout. You're not tired from working too much. You're tired from thinking too much. It's like your brain has been running at full speed for so long that it just ain't anymore. You wake up exhausted even after a full night's sleep. Simple decisions feel impossible. And ironically, you start analyzing why you're so tired, which just makes you even more tired. I've seen this happen to people who are genuinely trying to grow. They read all the books, they journal every day, they do therapy, and they still feel worse. Because they turned self-awareness into a performance. Something they had to do right, or they were failing. That pressure alone is exhausting. Feeling like you have to be constantly working on yourself, constantly improving, constantly understanding every little thing about who you are. It's not sustainable. And here's something not many people want to hear. Sometimes, understanding why you do something doesn't actually help you stop doing it. You can know exactly why you self-sabotage, trace it back to your childhood, understand the pattern, name the wound, and still do the exact same thing next week. Because insight doesn't always equal change. And when you realize that, it's one of the most frustrating feelings in the world. You did everything right. You were honest with yourself. You did the work, and nothing changed. That gap between knowing and changing is where a lot of people give up. Or worse, where they spiral. They start thinking, what's wrong with me? I know better, so why don't I do better? And that question, if you ask it enough times, destroys you. This is what I call the awareness trap. You become so focused on understanding yourself that you forget to actually live. Every move you make goes through 5 layers of analysis first. Should I go to this party? Well, am I avoiding it because I'm an introvert or because I'm scared? Is this a healthy boundary or am I isolating myself? And by the time you've answered all of that, the party's over. This isn't just annoying, it's disconnecting you from yourself. The goal of self-awareness was to help you act more authentically, but hyper-awareness does the opposite. You stop feeling things and start narrating them. You're never really in the moment because part of your brain is always taking notes. And relationships. This hits relationships hard. When you're constantly analyzing yourself, you start analyzing everyone around you too. You notice their patterns, their defense mechanisms, their triggers. And that sounds helpful, but it can make it really hard to just be with someone. To enjoy them without turning it into a psychology session. Real connection requires a little bit of not knowing. A little bit of just being there, messy and unanalyzed. There's also this thing that happens where you mistake self-criticism for self-awareness. You think that noticing everything you're doing wrong means you're being honest with yourself. But there's a big difference between awareness and judgment. Awareness says, I notice I get defensive when someone gives me feedback. Judgment says, I always get defensive, I'm so immature, why can't I just be better? One helps you grow. The other one just makes you feel like garbage on a loop. So how do you know if this is happening to you? Here are some signs. You're always in your head, even during good moments. You feel guilty for not growing fast enough, like you're falling behind on some timeline. You can't make small decisions without overthinking them to death. You feel more exhausted after reflecting than before. And maybe the biggest one, you feel like you know yourself really well, but you still don't feel okay. That last one hits different, right? Because the promise of all this work is that if you understand yourself enough, you'll finally feel at peace. But peace doesn't come from understanding alone. It comes from acceptance. You can understand something and still not accept it. Real peace comes when you stop needing yourself to be different. And you can't think your way into that. You have to live your way into it. So what do you actually do about all this? First, give yourself a break from reflecting. Seriously. Pick a day, or even just a few hours, where you're not allowed to analyze anything. You're just doing, eating, moving, talking, being. It will feel weird at first. Your brain will want to pull you back in. Just gently redirect it. Not right now. We are just living. Second, move your body. This sounds simple, but it genuinely helps. When you're in your head too much, your body becomes invisible. Physical movement pulls you back into the present in a way that nothing else can. A walk, a workout, dancing around your room, whatever it is, just move. Third, reconnect with things that don't need to be analyzed. Music, a show you love, a meal you really enjoy, a conversation where you're just talking, not trying to learn anything. Fun is not a reward for finishing your inner work. It's actually part of the healing. Fourth, practice what therapists call cognitive diffusion. It's a way of creating space between you and your thoughts. Instead of thinking, I'm broken, you say, I notice I'm having the thought that I'm broken. It sounds small, but it changes everything. It reminds you that you are not your thoughts. You're the one observing them. And fifth, this is maybe the most important one, shift from self-understanding to self-compassion. Stop asking, why am I like this, and start asking, how can I be kinder to myself right now? Because here's the truth, you will never fully understand yourself. You're not a puzzle to be solved. You're a person. Complicated, changing, sometimes contradictory. And that's okay. That's human. The goal was never to figure yourself out completely. The goal was to live better. And you can do that without having all the answers. Self-awareness is still a gift. It matters. It helps. But like anything, too much of it without balance tips into something that hurts you. The version of self-awareness that actually serves you is gentle. It's curious without being obsessive. It notices without judging. And it knows when to put the journal down and just go outside. You don't owe yourself constant analysis. You owe yourself a life that actually feels worth living. And sometimes, the most self-aware thing you can do is decide to stop overthinking and just be here. If this hit close to home, you're probably going to want to watch this next video. Thanks for watching.